But it goes much further than that. It means that there must be a particular reason for these lies, an ulterior motive, an agenda which is the opposite to that which the rhetoric would have us believe. So firstly, we need to examine what that real agenda might be, but we also need to ask ourselves, do we wish to continue to tolerate such politicians or governments who continue to act in this manner on our behalf? Do we wish to place this level of trust and the future well-being and welfare of our country and its people in the hands of politicians who not only do the opposite to what they say they are going to do, but who treat us and our views, opinions and judgments with complete contempt and disregard? We know what we expect from our political leaders. We know what we need from our political leaders and our governments when it comes to the policies and the support required to allow us to do our part to fulfil the obligations that we have to our wives and families, our vocation, our finances, and to ourselves. We know that it has not been for want of trying that people's personal relationships, their financial affairs and their lives generally have reached crisis point, and the stress of it all has pushed the coping mechanisms of millions far past that which they can bear any longer.
Mr. Wentworth, in my travels, people's concerns are focused upon one thing more than anything else: the war in Iraq and...
Stop! Please stop right there. We need to identify and clear up the greatest lie, the greatest fraud, the greatest cover-up of all time. You used the word war in relation to Iraq. The following fact has been very carefully hidden from us by Bush and Blair and the mainstream media. They have gone to great lengths to prevent this fact from becoming public knowledge, and when you know what the legal implications are, you will understand why. Prior to the 20th of March 2003, orders were given by Saddam Hussein to the Iraqi military not to resist the US and UK offensive. As a consequence, the majority of the military stayed at home or deserted their posts when they realised that it was pointless and suicidal to put themselves in harm's way. In other words, this means that for every shot fired, for every bomb dropped, for every missile fired by the Bush and Blair military, no one was shooting back. Therefore, there was no war. There was no fighting. This brings into play a vital, important principle of law. It means that 100% of the human cost was borne by the unarmed civilian population of Iraq. It means that any person killed or injured died as a result of acts and conduct which constituted murder in the first degree, crimes against humanity, genocide, state-sponsored terrorism using weapons of mass destruction, and criminal damage against property and infrastructure belonging to private individuals and the state of Iraq. We have wholesale breaches of the Geneva Conventions and war crimes at the worst end of the criminal spectrum. All of the preceding applies in every respect to Afghanistan as well, and the perpetrators need to be brought to account. As revealed and demonstrated by the Voice of the World and others at all times prior to the 20th of March 2003, Iraq was not a threat to its neighbours, and in particular, it was not a threat to the United States and the United Kingdom. Not only did Iraq not have any weapons of mass destruction, it did not have any meaningful conventional weapons for its own defence. In other words, it was defenceless. Nor was Iraq in any way involved or party to any act of terrorism in any part of the world, and in particular to the events which took place in the United States on the 11th September 2001. This means that the invasion by Bush and Blair constituted a premeditated act of aggression against the sovereignty of an independent, defenceless nation by two countries who, when acting in concert, represent the most powerful military force in the world. A war crime. It also means that the invasion was illegal and criminal in its entirety. As a consequence, it also means that the US and the UK are legally liable for loss and damage, for every life lost, every person injured, every piece of loss or damage to property, personal or real, irrespective of whether that property belongs to an individual or to the state. In addition, it also means that as from the 20th of March 2003, as a result of these actions and conduct, the personal safety and security of every man, woman and child in Iraq is collectively the personal responsibility of the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and their governments. The same applies in every respect to Afghanistan.